With the release of Journey Together on March 27th in Pokemon TCG Live, our big new 2025 mechanic of Trainers Pokemon will arrive. And it should stick around until Mega Pokemon inevitably show up later this year after Legends ZA, and we all have to act surprised. For our first main set of the year, we're getting Hop, N, Iono, and Lillie, with at least Steven and Marnie showing up in our second main set of 2025, which should arrive on May 30th. Yesterday, I took a look at which old decks are still dominating post-rotation thanks to early Japanese results. Today, I'll be showing off what you can expect from the new decks being introduced with Journey Together. In my previous video, I dipped a toe into what a Hop Zacian EX deck will look like. Now I'm shoving the whole foot in. Put simply, this deck doesn't work without our Chaladon EX. While you could use Metang for energy acceleration, Metang forces you to put 12 or more metal energy in your deck to ensure you're hitting attachments. Our Chaladon just needs to evolve with 2 metal energy in the discard pile and you're good to go. Thanks to cards like Earthen Vessel, Iris's Fighting Spirit, Research, and Ultra Ball, getting that energy in the bin isn't tough. For this video, I purposefully avoided our Chaladon list that only utilized 1 copy of Zacian EX, because then it's in our Chaladon list with Zacian, not a Zacian list with our Chaladon. It makes sense, okay? Get off my back! Anyways, while Zacian EX's attack does require 4 energy when it's naked, you can reduce that to 3 metal energy by attaching Hop's Choice Band. Plus, Choice Band boosts the damage Zacian deals by 30. So now you can use our Chaladon's ability plus a manual attachment to hit for 270 with Zacian. But that's not enough. The new Postwick Stadium further boosts the damage Hop's Pokemon deal by 30, with Snorlax adding another 30 on top of that, except Snorlax's ability doesn't stack. Still, with all these buffs activated, Zacian EX is swinging for 330 damage for just 3 metal energy. This first place list from Japan is super greedy. It only has 4 metal energy, meaning if you play this on PTCGL, you'll prize all of them. But if that doesn't happen, you can use Zacian EX's first attack early on in the game for as little as 0 energy thanks to Choice Band. If all those buffs I showed earlier are active, Close Cleavage does 120 damage to their active and 30 to a bench Pokemon for 0 energy. By utilizing Iron Bundle's ability, you can send their active Badoo to the bench and knock it out, since Manaphy no longer exists to protect bench Pokemon. As the game progresses, you attach Darkness Energy to Monkey Dory to help build up damage on your opponent's side of the field, though your own Pokemon do need to be damaged in order for that strategy to work. Then use our Chaladon to accelerate energy to Zacian for big KOs, and bounce to Cramorant when there are 3 or 4 prizes to deal a ton of damage for, again, as little as 0 energy. For a more traditional Hop Zacian EX list, remove all the bells and whistles and just focus on our Chaladon and Zacian. You still have ways to get Zacian to 330 damage for 3 energy, but now you can attack with our Chaladon when necessary. I'm not sold on Super Potion in our Chaladon yet, but it has been popping up lately like a toe in an old sock. If you're interested in Hop Zacian EX when Journey Together comes out, I'd recommend using this as a base, then fine-tuning it as needed. A couple other cards I haven't featured yet are Hop's Cramorant and Hop's Bag. Hop's Bag is crazy, letting you grab any 2 basic Hop's Pokemon from deck and slap them on the bench. But the real MVP seems like it'll be Cramorant. When your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, it does 120 damage for 1 energy. Use Choice Band, Snorlax, and Postwick, now it's 210 for free. And don't forget that you can use Dusclops and Dusknoir to force them to 3 or 4 prizes. The card's honestly insane, better than Baby Buzzwole was back in the day. And thanks to its colorless energy requirement, don't be surprised if those of us on the Council of Smooth Feet pair it with Frostlass and Alakazam to create a devastating spread deck. Here's what that Dusknoir build looks like. You remove metal energy and solely focus on jet energy. As a result, you only rely on Zacian's Close Cleave and Cramorant's Fickle Spitting to attack, which are able to take one-shots when paired with Dusknoir's ability to blow itself and apply 13 damage counters. I know things are bound to change between now and Journey Together in 2 months, but Hop seems like he will be the best trainer by a wide margin. Speaking of, I need to admit something. I'm the one who started the Vaporeon copy pasta. Also, I was wrong about Double. At least in these first few days, the sheep has been gaining in popularity with Japanese players. Since it'll never attack, I assumed it wouldn't see a ton of play. But the ability has proved useful. When you evolve into Double, you can gust up any of your opponent's Pokemon. Basically, it's an ability-based boss's orders. While this Ceruledge EX list managed to finish in 2nd place at a recent Japanese tournament, the best partner for Double is definitely our Chaladon. Since our Chaladon already runs Professor Turo and Scoop Up Cyclone for potential healing shenanigans, you can easily repurpose those cards for double. Now you can choose. Do you want to bring up a damaged Archaladon and reuse its energy acceleration, or do you want to bring up a double and reuse its gust? It's not a straight replacement for your deck needing Boss's Orders or Countercatcher, but Pokemon-based gust seems like it could be a thing in 2025 thanks to double. I'm not quite ready to admit that I was wrong about Zoroark EX. While it's definitely performed better than I expected, I'm attributing some of that to its shiny newness, not its actual power. As a reminder, Zoroark EX has the trade ability, which is the exact same as Zoroark GX, discard a card from hand, draw 2 cards. Then there's the Night Joker attack, which has nothing to do with Joaquin Phoenix. For 2 Darkness Energy, copy the attack of any of your benched Ends Pokemon. Since that's Zoroark's only attack, it relies on the strength of the other Ends Pokemon to be good. The one that's seen the most use so far in Japan is Darmanitan. At the cost of discarding all energy attached to it, the attack does 90 damage to their active plus 90 to a bench Pokemon. Yeah, that's great against evolution decks with weak basics or Dragapult if they only have a couple of your cloak down, but what are you supposed to do against Raging Bolt? While they only need to discard 4 energy and play to one-shot Zoroark EX, you need to get 2 stage 1s into play and use Darmanitan's attack 3 times to KO a Raging Bolt. Sure, you can target their Ogerpon with Darmanitan and hit them for weakness with a buff like Defiance Band, but if you're exposing your Darmanitan, you could be left without an attack. Otherwise, you're copying Reshiram, which does 20 damage for each damage counter on it. So if Zoroark takes 180 damage from a Charizard EX, it can revenge KO it easily. But we don't really live in that world. Sure, if Zoroark can survive a hit by using Heroescape or Survival Brace, Powerful Rage is powerful. I just worry about how your opponent can play around it. To round out the deck, you have Ends PP Up, which basically acts as a Dark Patch for Ends Pokemon, and Ends Castle, which gives every Ends Pokemon free retreat. Getting Ends PP Up will be the key to victory, as Dark Patch is rotating the same day Zoroark comes out. Here's the best performing list I could find from Japan. There's definitely a little spice here with Binding Mochi and Pecharunt EX, as well as Reversal Energy to attack with Darmanitan in a pinch. While you'll definitely win some games, it seems like it can't do too much against high HP decks that can take one-hit KOs. And if they have a Rabsca in play to protect their bench because Dragapult EX is more of a menace than Spider-Man, your whole strategy falls apart. This other list pretty much follows the same concept. Copy Darmanitan, use Reshiram if Zoroark manages to survive a hit, and take advantage of Cramorant and Ursaluna when the time is right. Unfortunately, I don't see Zoroark EX as more than a C-tier deck. But I also thought Energy Sticker would be a good card, so maybe I'm wrong. It's tough to say if Lillie's Clefairy EX will ever be a deck on its own, or if it's merely destined to be a supporting character in other decks. One thing it has going for it is definitely the ability. When it's in play, your opponent's Dragon-type Pokemon are weak to Psychic. Raging Bolt EX and Dragapult EX are shaping up to be the top 2 decks post-rotation, so it can maybe give you a positive matchup against both of them. Plus, it's attacked as Raikou Vs, dealing 20 base damage plus 20 more for each bench Pokemon in play. Paired with Area 0, you can do 180 damage with a full bench on your side and up to 280 if they have a full bench of 5. To help achieve that, Lillie's Rabombi's ability is Captivating Pokepuff, able to take any basics from their hand and place them onto the bench. If that wasn't enough, Lillie's Pearl attached to Clefairy means it only gives up 1 prize if it's KO'd by damage. So what exactly is the problem? Well, for starters, that's it for Lillie's support. The Pokemon Company just kind of patted themselves on the butt after making these and called it a day. Additionally, 190 hit points is very weak, and Lillie's Pearl only activates if it's knocked out by damage. If they use Dragapult Pings or Dusknoir or Munkidori or anything except damage, it still gives up 2 prizes. And Jamming Tower is shaping up to be one of the most played stadiums post-rotation to try and curb Bravery Charm and Sparkling Crystal, meaning the Pearl is deactivated. Finally, it takes a lot to reach that 280 damage. Despite all the potential problems though, I am more excited for Clefairy than Zoroark, whether it's rational or not. It took me a surprising amount of time to find this 3rd place Lillie's Clefairy EX deck from Japan. While Clefairy has over 100 entries on Limitless from just a few days of tournaments, that's mostly from being paired with Gardevoir EX or as attack in decks like Charizard EX. Because you need a Terra Pokemon to activate Area 0, Teal Mask Ogerpon is the partner of choice. And just like with Regidrago V-Star, you use Ogerpon's ability and Energy Switch to power up Clefairy. Because this player in Japan is cool, they also included Volcanion EX to burn their active, which is almost always a guaranteed plus 20 damage. If you're running a deck with Latios EX in it, always think about including Volcanion for that extra little damage. And because you already play a bunch of Energy Switch, Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon is in there to deal with ability-heavy decks. Alternatively, you can pair Lillie with Zacian for energy acceleration and Tarapados for the Area 0 activation. I'm definitely disappointed in Japanese players for not going full crazy and including 4 Lillie's Pearls, so I guess it'll be up to me to rectify that mistake at the end of March. To quickly sum up my thoughts on Lillie's Clefairy, it can definitely be strong, but the fact that it really only has access to Lillie's Pearl for support means it'll be held back from ever being better than low B tier. Last and definitely least, we have an Iono deck. Unlike Lillie, this could get better over time if we see more lightning support. But unless you want to try an inferior version of Raging Bolt with Belly Bolt EX, Iono if you'll be playing with this archetype. If you didn't watch my previous video about how Raging Bolt is helped out by these cards, it all starts with Belly Bolt. As often as you light during your turn, you can attach a lightning energy from your hand to one of your Iono's Pokemon. Then Raging Bolt does 70 damage times the number of energy you discard from your Pokemon. Since lightning is one of the requirements, it removes the need for Teal Masked Ogerpon and Grass energy, but this strategy does mean your turn 1 will suck. In order to make this a true Iono's deck though, you focus on Voltorb instead of Raging Bolt. Belly Bolt's ability is still key, as is Kilowatt Rolls, which allows you to discard an energy attached to Kilowatt Roll to drop to 6 cards in hand. Then Voltorb does 20 base damage plus 20 more for each lightning energy attached to your Iono's Pokemon. With Levincia able to return 2 lightning energy from the discard pile to your hand, it's a fairly well-oiled foot. Unfortunately, it hasn't done much in Japan so far. Every time I tried to look up top lists for Iono, it was always something like this. Yes, Kilowatt Roll and Belly Bolt are present, but Raging Bolt is the main attacker. Finally, I was able to find this 5th place list that focuses on Voltorb. Because a third of the deck is energy, there's not a lot of room for whacking off. Kilowatt Roll is your card draw, Belly Bolt's your accelerator, and Voltorb is your attacker. With 11 energy in play, Voltorb is dealing 240 damage, able to one-shot a Raging Bolt. Get 15 down, now you're at 320 and able to one-shot a Dragapult. It's asking a lot, which is why this version plays Letter of Encouragement to get energy out of the deck following a KO, Max Rod and Lana's Aid to recover energy and Pokemon from the discard pile, and Levincia and Superior Energy Retrieval to recover energy. I think the main reason Iono hasn't seen much success is because you have to have 15 energy in play. Belly Bolt on its own is an okay attacker, but it's a stage 1 that does 230 damage for 4 energy. Raging Bolt is a basic that does 280 damage with 4 energy in play. It just goes to show you how crazy strong they made Raging Bolt, because Belly Bolt's a good card, it's just outmatched by the Giraffe. Like I said earlier, if we don't see some buffs to lightning Pokemon damage this year, Iono will probably fade away like my ex-wife's feelings for me. Because I care about all of you, and I'm not just saying that because you give me money, I figured I'd include one more deck. While Mamoswine EX is probably the best choice, we still don't know if Blaziken EX is coming out in Journey Together. Until we get that confirmation, it doesn't really make sense to talk about it. Instead, I'll focus on another Stage 2 Pokemon, Tyranitar. As long as Tyranitar's in the active, your opponent can't play any items. Obviously, you pair this with Badoo's attack early to shut off their items, build up a Tyranitar in the background, then start swinging for 150 damage. As an added bonus, Tyranitar's attack discards the top 2 cards of their deck. So it's item locked plus mill, and it can 2-shot a lot of Pokemon out there. You do have to worry about boss's orders and double breaking the lock, but if they can't ever play their items, you might have a chance. This 3rd place list runs a few wacky cards, though the overall goal is simple: shut off their items and mill their deck. Grand Tree helps you get Tyranitar into play without rare candy, and Pokemon League HQ makes Raging Bolt's life tougher, forcing them to have 3 energy attached to attack. It'll definitely be a rogue deck, and I would suggest Neutralization Zone over Grand Tree, but if you want to be annoying post-rotation, Tyranitar is your best shot. Because this was a very early preview, there aren't any deck lists to give. I'll have several more Journey Together videos in March once we know the set list, complete with PTCGO lists, so stay tuned for those. Until then, when it comes to new decks on March 27th, get excited for Zacian. And be cautious when a guy behind Home Depot says he's a genie and all you need to do is rub his lamp to have your wish granted.